I always say the movements are the easy part of Pilates. What makes this technique special, what defines us, is what we call the principles of Pilates. These are what you're thinking about while you're doing the movements. The principles are basically a list of things that you have to apply to every single thing that you're doing. Some of the principles we talk about a lot: breathing and centering, mentioned usually in every movement. But some of the other principles, flowing movement, precision, control, these are things you actually have to physically think about as you're doing the movement to give the movements quality. I always say that Pilates breathing is not natural. It's a very difficult way of breathing. In fact, through the years, many clients have said to me, it's the breathing I find the most difficult. Lateral breathing is not how we normally breathe. We normally breathe through the abdominals, but we're doing it for a specific reason. If we're holding a contraction in our center, which we now call the core, if we're holding a light contraction there, you can't breathe through the lower part, so we have to breathe through the upper part. But the breathing takes time to master. I always say to clients, please don't stress. If you need to take an extra breath, take an extra breath. Over time it will become clear, as long as you understand why we're doing it, that contraction is being kept, so we're breathing through the upper back. There's been a lot of research. In 1999, some Australian physiotherapists came up with some information that really changed the way that I was teaching Pilates. Until then, I was taught to always pull up the pelvic floor and draw the navel to spine. Zip and hollow, as we called it for many years. What these physiotherapists showed us first was that we don't need to have very strong contraction to make the muscles we're focusing on work effectively. Nowadays, we call it a very mild or light engagement. Usually we work between 25 to 30% of the core contraction. So we really try and feel it from either tightening a belt as much as we can, releasing that belt out halfway, and then to about 30%, to about the third notch of the belt, relaxing completely, and then taking it back to the third notch. It's about the third notch of the belt. So remember, the hardest you pull, that's the 10th notch, and we have to find that third notch that we need to keep maintained. Also with the pelvic floor, that we draw the pelvic floor almost like an elevator or lift coming up in a building to the top. That's what we call the 10th floor. You relax down to the 5th floor, down to the 3rd floor, relax completely, and then go back to the 3rd floor. The breathing really is a monitoring tool as well. Often I say if the movement's too hard, usually the first thing that stops happening is you stop breathing. The other thing as well is if you're not able to keep this light contraction as you're doing the movement, again, usually what it means is the movement level you're going for is a little bit too much. In this series of podcasts, we're going to be showing you some basic Pilates, working up to some more advanced Pilates. Listen to your body. It's very important that your body is adaptable to the levels that you need. As you progress, you'll progress and maintain that quality. Control and flowing movement, these are also two more principles of Pilates. I always say the flowing movement is very much like a continuous circle. We don't think of repetitions going backwards and forwards. We think of a movement cycle, that you're moving the whole time. With control, whether you're lifting the arm or whether you're lifting the leg or whether you're moving the whole body, the movement is controlled in both directions. Sometimes you can apply the breath pattern to this. So if you're lifting up and lifting back down, a breathing out and breathing in breath pattern could be applied. The length of that breath pattern would be the same. So basically the time to come up and the time to come down, or lift the arm up and lift the arm down, would be the same. So by doing that, you've got continuous movement, and you're also working with control. Often the slower the movement, the more difficult it is. If you need to take an extra breath, take an extra breath. Don't ever feel like you're stressing your breath pattern. Joseph Pilates believed in doing this technique a lot, in fact every day. And clients always ask me, how quickly will my body change? How quickly will I get the results? Obviously, like any technique, it takes time to master Pilates. Really, your goal should be long-term. You'll start feeling better immediately. But really, to apply this technique, you need to apply it not just when you're doing the exercises, but also when you're sitting at a desk and when you're walking, or whatever your activity, especially if you're exercising as well. Your body will change over time, and your body will remember what you're trying to do each time that you do the movements.